I remember one time my dad took me to this
and I'm sure you've heard of it before. I've heard of it before. I just never really played it. I think I actually tried it like once or twice. I think it was like maybe a couple of years ago or over a couple of auto clickers for Mac. For anything just clicking. But this right here is your most common and easily used auto clicker that's out there, and I think it's one of the most reliable. I use it all the time, especially if you like don't want to disconnect. So like for example, when I have my alts, I use an auto clicker so that my alt doesn't disconnect while I'm working on their island. So what I'll do is I'll log in an alt on my laptop, and then I'll give my main access to be able to work on that island. So the cool thing about that is all I got to do is to make sure my alt doesn't disconnect from being idle too long, as I run an auto clicker on my laptop so he never disconnects. So as long as the auto clicker is clicking somewhere in the game client, then you won't disconnect. Some people have said like, you can actually do like a dance emote or something like that to stay connected. I haven't had that work yet. I have yet to get that to work, and it could be avatar specific. I'm not sure. The other thing you could do in this is you can see right here, there's the milliseconds. So there's a time click interval. So you can do it based on hour. So maybe you want something to click once an hour, once a minute, or once an hour and a half, or particular seconds, all the way down to the milliseconds. You can go really quick. You can go down to like 1 millisecond. It's going to kill your computer a bit, but you can go really, really low at that. 100 milliseconds is pretty much good for everything that you're going to do. But if you want to try to get that little edge, you can just bring it down to 10 milliseconds using it. Maybe you're playing or if you're playing like My Restaurant or anything like that, you can actually just auto click, which is kind of nice because you can, you're gonna make so much more money in those games being AFK, including like a tapping simulator or anything like that. So that's my recommendation for an auto click. Cool way to simplify your You need to make sure you know what's the stop key before you start something. Right here, you can see the start. So I'm gonna hit F6. And now I can go and use my phone for a bit while this is, going. And that's just a really, really cool way to simplify your life a little bit. On top of that, if you're playing like a AFK simulator, like a anime fighting simulator, or if you're using this a lot, I talk about it a lot too. I'm going to show you a full tutorial on how to use this thing. So I do use this a lot. You need to be careful about where you get it. I do link to portableapps.com, which is a good place for you to get it. Some antivirus may not like this because it can actually technically record your keystrokes. It's non-malicious, so it can't actually log your keys because it's a macro recorder. So you just need to be really, really careful about where you get this tool. I've never had any issues with it. I run antivirus checks on everything. I have 0 viruses. Granted, there's a lot of antivirus scanners out there. Some can detect things that others cannot. So you do need to be careful. McAfee, like Norton, all those cleared this file. So all the stuff that I'm showing you right now is linked in the description. So you're not going to have any, don't try to Google it yourself. Just go through the description. So that way you don't end up on some virus-filled website. So there's a couple functions here. It's super, I love how portable this thing is. It's so cool. I never mess with the EXE. For some reason, EXE doesn't work for me very well. For some reason, I can't control it as well. I like seeing this because I can control it. So the first thing you want to do is just check your prefs because you need to get familiar with these. Here you see how it's unchecked for continuous playback. You're going to want to check that right away. Just make sure that's checked so that when you play it back, it loops, because otherwise it's not going to loop if that's not checked. You're going to run it and it's going to run once and you're going to be like, why did I get disconnected? Or why did it not work? Because it's just only playing it once. So just make sure continuous playback is checked. And then here are the 2 hotkeys that you need to worry about. So I've set my recording hotkey to F8, but by default it is Control Shift Alt R, right? So you want to make sure, you can do whatever you want here. I like F8 because I don't know about you, but having to use my pinky, my index finger and all that stuff to get Alt, Shift Alt R to record, it not only slows down my recording because then I gotta get all those keys right. Sometimes I mess it up. It's just really, really awkward. Plus the Shift key is usually the sprint key. So suddenly when you're recording, you see that big sprint, kind of like the camera zooms in and out. And like in Skyblock, you'd have that camera zoom in and out. It just looked a little weird. So I use F8, but for playback, you can leave it as Control Shift Alt P if you want to, or you can make it F12. The problem with F12 is F12's already used a lot on mine, and I really don't want to be using print screen because it's gonna keep taking screenshots each time. So I just leave it as Control Shift Alt P, and then for my recording, I use F8. Now it is a toggle. So what this F8 means is you start the recording with F8, and then you end the recording with F8. Same for playback. You start the recording with Control Shift Alt P, and you end the playback with Control Shift Alt P. So pay attention to these very carefully. Make sure you set them up correctly before the screen so I can keep an eye on that recording icon. Let's assume I want to hit this, and then I want to hit F. I want to spam F to pick up anything. So because we know that by breaking the trees, it drops some cubes down here. So we're going to move our camera up like this, and it's not going to be perfect because I don't know this game very well, but it's going to be pretty close. So I'm just going to get up real close right here so that when the items fall, they're going to be in view of this, right? So I'll be let's see, I'll do something like this, and then I'll record me hitting and then hitting some F while I'm doing this. So I'm spamming the F key and moving the mouse back and forth like that, right? So now I'm gonna go and record those actions, and then I'm gonna stop the recording when I'm done. And I can hit F8 because it's just going to loop that. I don't have to do it for an hour. You don't have to record the whole session. It's just going to repeat exactly what I just did. So if I wanted to infinitely repeat that, it'll do that. So I just finished that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this back down. I'm going to save this out, and we're going to call it Booga because I don't have any other good names. So that way you have the script. Anytime you want to just run it again, you can. And you just got to remember your angle here because it's going to be the same mouse movement. So we're going to keep it about that. And we're going to play it back. So all you got to do is just do your, remember the playback key is Control Shift Alt plus P. So we're going to go ahead and play this back. And I'm not touching the mouse right now. That's 100% auto. See how it's picking stuff up already for me? And it'll just loop this all night. So if anything were to respawn right here, it would, oh, look at it. I got it. Nice. I didn't even touch it. That was completely macroed. So you'll want to do Control Shift Alt P to stop that. So let's go ahead and do this one because this one sounds like this one's going to give us some cool stuff. So you basically do a similar angle to the tree. So let's assume it's right here. And I'm going to go ahead and play it. And it's just going to keep, repeating. Now you do need to check anytime you play any kind of Roblox game. Check with the developers, check with the moderators, check with the Discord, check with the community. Make sure you're allowed to use macros. Now, in my checking of macros being allowed in this game, it looks like they are. In a game like this, you would have to also auto your food apparently, or you're going to die, right? So I'll show you how to do that as well. Assuming you have a ton of food. And of course, with the hillside, all these things fell down, but so you're going to have to just remember, you're not going to do it. You're not going to be